I'm very honored to be here. My name is Jerry Silverman, and I'm a senior solutions consultant in the public sector group at Adobe, based in McLean, Virginia. How many of us are government employees or government contractors? That's pretty much everyone. If you didn't raise your hand, welcome anyway. Or you're with Adobe, so you've seen this. And but yeah, we're very excited. This is the first ever that I know of government-specific session at Adobe MAX. There may have been some in many past years, but if this is your first one, then we're happy. And not to. All right. Let's see. Do I have to pair this? There we go. I wanted to be in the right spirit, so I took our government type of thing and scaled it down to the proper proportions for Max. And a lot of times, I, as a senior solutions consultant at Adobe, I go across the country, across the United States, and I present Adobe software to the Department of Defense, the intelligence community, and I've done also for the federal civilian space, for contractors, for the state and local governments. And one of the questions that I get most frequently when I walk around is, where do I get that exact presentation that you are doing? I need to take this to my manager, superior, to IT, to procurement, to whomever, so that they can buy this, or at least we can have a better conversation. So being a super nice guy and somebody who doesn't know how to use a prompter, or whose prompter is currently beach balling his computer. Oh, come on. Remember that explosion that we saw in the Act of Valor trailer? Oh, dude. All right. This is what I get for running PowerPoint on my Mac. All right. Let's do that one more time. So as I was saying, one of the questions that I get most often is, where can I find this presentation? And so I created a QR code for you. And I'm showing you right now. You don't have to whip out your phone and take a picture of this, because I'm going to put it up at the end. I put it here to let you know that I did it. And that's what it looks like. And it'll take you right to the URL to download the zip of this PowerPoint. Now, it's a big PowerPoint. It's about 90 megs, because I've got a lot of screenshots. There's a lot of animations and goodness and builds and stuff in here. Because I really want to walk you through what Adobe sees as a vision for the Adobe advantage in the public sector. So again, who am I? Just to let you know, right? I used to ride bikes and skateboards, and now I ride planes across the country, interfacing with many of our public sector, right? This is Robins Air Force Base in Georgia, but this is not atypical of what my work week looks like. So I don't know if you saw that Marines Magazine video that we had as you were coming in, but Marines Magazine has an iPad app based on the digital publishing suite, Adobe's digital publishing suite, and there's a 360 panorama of a guy wearing a flak jacket where you can take your finger and swipe across, and he does one of these, and you can make him dance. And so I met that guy who's in that magazine, and that's me at the Marine Corps base in Quantico, teaching them CS6. So I get to teach, interact, gather requirements from customers, and this is a real look at my Lightroom map all across the country. And it's great to be on the public sector team, because the uptick in the last few years of Adobe solutions in government has been phenomenal. So I want to start setting the stage, right? We're all here. We beat through the sequester to get here, but saving money and being efficient is probably the thing that will save our job this year and in years forward, moving into the next coming years in government. So there is a study that came out by Meritalk that talks about the potential federal productivity gain if federal employees increased their capacity for using mobile devices even 10%. And that figure that Meritalk came up with in their study was $2.7 billion. Right? The government could save $2.7 billion just if everybody learned one new thing on how to do one new business process on their phone. Something simple. It doesn't have to. 10%. I'm not that good at my phone, but if I just got 10 100ths better, and we all did, we'd save a lot of money. 57 million hours of additional social services could be realized by Health and Human Services or other federal systems, right? If we could take the caseworkers and move their workflow from a paper-based, travel-based system to mobile devices, to cataloging all of their case documentation with mobile, giving them more time to go around and actually visit their customers and learn what their customers need. 57 million additional hours of services if our HHS caseworkers were enabled with mobile devices and mobile data access. And this one is hours and money, right? Local law enforcement, right? State and local. How many state and local law enforcement folks do we have? Or maybe you don't want to say, and that's all right. But mobile data access to just half of the 600,000 law enforcement representatives that we have in the country, if you gave each of them 30 minutes of mobile data access, right, on their phones, of course they have their cars where they have a laptop, but if you were able to give them more access to data, $1.3 billion, 50 million more hours for them to do their jobs, right? So there's a lot of savings with going mobile. This all came from a study by the Deloitte University Press, right? They coagulated all of these different Meritalk studies and GAO studies into one kind of Uber study on boosting mobile productivity in the public sector by going mobile. And it's a fantastic read. And this all by itself, if you walk away from Adobe government public sector today, take this study away with you, right? And remember, you can get this deck at the end with the QR code. But I just wanted to draw this to your attention. So part of why we emphasize this at Adobe is because the digital government strategy put out by the White House speaks specifically about making services more efficient, improving processes, giving our customers, our constituents, timely access to and engaging access to data, right? Thinking about data as opposed to documents, and supporting cloud initiatives that are both private and public, right? Adobe hosts many different events in the Washington, D.C. area. We've hosted the Department of the Interior and the Department of Homeland Security in a kind of cloud roundtable earlier this year. And I think all major DoD branches, federal civilian branches, are thinking very seriously about that transaction between the public cloud and the private cloud. Where do those mix? What can we invest in now versus what can we put on our IT roadmap in the future? So how was that keynote? Everybody like that keynote today? It was pretty rad, right? Right? We're making a pen. Okay. All right. I like pens. It looks like a cool pen. But MAX is the creativity conference, right? So all of us in this room are creativity people and or digital document people. Do any of us do digital asset management? All right. Do any of us do web content management? Right? Do any of us look at or parse through digital analytics on those web experiences? This is all the same hands. You don't have to keep raising them. So what a lot of our traditional core creative customers don't understand about the advantage that Adobe brings to their enterprise is that we actually have a number of different tools, technologies, and platforms that allow the entire content lifecycle to be reflected in your workflow. And the way that Adobe Government breaks it down is the 4 M's: make, manage, mobilize, and measure. Right? Making content, we're all familiar with that, and we're going to get into some of the new features in the Creative Cloud around that. Managing your content. And Adobe's starting to give you the capability of managing your content in the Creative Cloud. Now, I was sitting and thinking to myself during this entire presentation, wow, yeah, sure, all of my government customers will just be able to sync to the cloud seamlessly because they just have open internet access at any desktop that they sit at. No sweat, dude, right? So if we take a step back from that and say, what is IT going to allow us to do versus what are we going to put on our roadmap, right? the experience management and workflow management back behind your firewall securely, right, that IT can manage is already something that Adobe offers in a number of different products, many of which link directly into the Creative Suite and into Acrobat. We're going to talk about some of those today. Security management. We manage a whole heck of a lot of PII, right? That's a huge interface for government with our constituents. And then, again, along with the Digital Government Initiative, doing multi-channel deployment, and then maybe personalizing the experience for our customers so that they don't go to our website and immediately leave, right? Or even our internal constituents. We want them to fill out the right form in the right time and not leave. So we have so many different great case studies, and I'm going to pull up a link to where you can find these later at the end when you come and get this deck. But probably the most kind of Creative Suite-centric one that I think we talk about the most in government is the Marine Corps Magazine, which video, if you came in a little bit late, you might not have seen the Marine Corps Magazine video. Right? They use the Adobe Digital Publishing Suite. The Marines Magazine is actually owned by the Defense Media Activity. Anybody here from there? Anyone? How are DoD people? Anyone that we can? All right, great. So DMA, right, big campus at Fort Meade, and Marines Magazine is made there, Airman Magazine, Soldiers Magazine, right, many of these media properties. And so their digital magazine is just one part of their entire multimedia initiative, right? They are constantly on the cruise for digitally expanding their property across web, across photography, and across the digital publications, right? So the three requirements that they constantly have as part of the Marines Magazine property: superior photography and graphics, responsive web design, and a digital magazine. And there is a difference between a magazine experience and a responsive web design. It may be a little semantic for some of us, but there actually is quite a large difference. So I wanted to walk you through today a workflow for the Defense Media Activity for this particular property. And I want us to think about how this particular workflow and the components that make up this workflow could be applied to the creative work that we do every day, right? And we're going to use three guys. Whoops, I'm going to take a step back, right? We got Jerome over here, and he is the photog and retoucher. Notice he's got a camera in his hand, right? So he works at Quantico Marine Corps Combat Camera, and he takes pictures all day long. Of course, he's got that beautiful Canon 5D Mark II, but he also takes pictures with his tablet and his phone and whatever else he happens to have, because sometimes pictures just happen. Then we've got Tim, who is the actual publisher and content owner. That's why he's in the middle, right? So he owns what happens with the website and with the magazine, right? He tells copy editors what copy they're assigned. He tells Jerome what pictures that he needs to go out and shoot. And then he tells Daryl, number 3, the publication designer, which pictures that Jerome took that Daryl's going to need to put into the publication, right? And which copy from his organization needs to go over to Daryl's magazine to get in there, right? So we've got a workflow amongst these 3 different groups because, as we all know, photographers aren't necessarily lone wolves. They might work as a combat camera unit, works with many photographers. A publisher usually has many copy editors, and a publication designer usually has interns, right? I know we were all there at some point in our lives. So I'm going to lay out this workflow like so, where our users or our groups are down here, our photog, our publisher, and our designer, right down here. And they're color-coded, and that color coding is going to come in handy. And now we're going to talk about the Adobe stack that they're going to be using. And some of it is private cloud, some of it is public cloud. And I've denoted what's private and public by these fun dotted lines or straight lines, right? So the Creative Cloud, we have just had our keynote, so we're more familiar with what that is, all the tools that you need to do your job at the desktop that you need them on. The central repository for our content that is going out to our website and our digital magazine is going to be the Adobe Experience Manager. Now, this is a cross-platform, open standards-based platform that does three things: web content management, digital asset management, and social communities. Now, what I'm showing you here is a vision demo for a workflow across many work groups. If you actually want to get into the nuts and bolts of a demo and want to like grill some technical dude about how this works, and I am technical too, but right down there in the booth, if you look in the Adobe booth, there's an Adobe Marketing Cloud demo booth. Head over there during one of your breaks and attack the guy standing under the icon that looks like that, right? And you're going to get the most technical demo that you want to have. But those three things can live as the central platform behind your firewall, right? Nice. And that's why this is denoted with a straight line and not a dotted line. The dotted line means that it's public cloud. The straight line means that it's private cloud. We're going to talk about using analytics and content targeting to analyze, optimize, and personalize the content that's going to those magazines and mobile websites being fed from the Adobe Experience Manager. We're going to talk about publishing using the Digital Publishing Suite from our Creative Cloud applications, using content that is hosted, stored, versioned, and iterated upon in the Adobe Experience Manager. And we're going to talk about using the PhoneGap build service to build HTML, CSS, and JavaScript-based apps from HTML that has been housed, created, and made using the Adobe Experience Manager. Right? Adobe platform at the top, end users down at the bottom. Look good? Right? Did anybody know that we could like do all of these things? Yeah? Well, there's a few yeses. Did anybody not know that we had all this stuff? It's because you're Adobe faithful is why. All right, we're going to start off with the photog or retoucher down here, right? Jerome. He works in the world of DNG, PNG, JPEG, and PSD, right? And he may have PTSD after all of this. So with his DSLR, thank you for whoever gave me the laugh. He may be working on his desktop with Lightroom or with his camera. He may be working with his tablet or phone. It doesn't matter. He can fire up Adobe Photoshop Touch, shoot those assets to the public cloud. When he gets back and it doesn't need his tablet anymore, he can fire up Photoshop CC on his desktop, bring down those assets, make them look beautiful, right? So here's Jerome's desktop, but Jerome is not always at his desktop. He woke up this morning and he had his phone and his tablet on him, and he got a phone call from Timothy, the publisher, saying, you got to go take a picture of this staff sergeant who just, landed a helicopter in Afghanistan, saving all of the people on board. He's a war hero. I think he hurt himself. He's going to get a Purple Heart. We need you to go profile him right away. Run on down to the helicopter pad and snap some photos of him. Crap! I left my phone I left my DSLR at home. All right, I got my tablet. I got my phone. I'm all right. I'm gonna hook up Photoshop Touch. Run on over there, and notice, of course, Photoshop Touch is looking at the Creative Cloud repository of assets, right? Your 20 gigs, or if you get a special agreement with Adobe, more. And this kind of mini desktop view inside of Photoshop Touch is synced with his desktop when he gets back to it, of course. So any asset that goes into this repository is going to be put onto his regular desktop, and it'll also show up on his phone as well. So he's going to go into his camera roll after he does his shoot with Staff Sergeant Davis and pick out the best picture. There it is. Looks pretty good. He's going to tap and zoom in. But you know what? It's a little overcast. The highlights he needs to bump a little bit. The shadows he needs to bring down. Like maybe do something with the midtones. So he's just going to grab this brush selection tool over there. And he's going to just smush his finger around to make a selection on Staff Sergeant Davis's face. Then he's going to use the good old Refine Edge tool in Photoshop Touch to kind of drag around and make sure that the clipping mask is nice and tight. Right? Looks good so far. And now he's going to create a new layer from selection, like we always, usually we do adjustment layers, let's be honest, in Photoshop. But he's going to make a new layer and then come into, he's a pro, so he's not going to use any of these, doinky, like prosumery filters. He's going to go straight to curves because he knows how to use curves. and then he's going to do his manual touch-based highlight and shadows, right? Pretty nice. We got a little bit more contrast, a little bit more punch to the staff sergeant's face so that when that shows up on our digital publication, it's going to look good. But remember, we made a quote-unquote adjustment layer, so we're able to turn that on and off as necessary and made that nice adjustment. No big whoop for a Photoshop user. Hit save, and once he actually saves it, whoops, went a little bit too far. There we go. Notice that that's going to save directly to the Creative Cloud repository, and that's going to show up on his phone. It's going to show up on his desktop in his Creative Cloud Files folder, and he'll get a growl notification or Windows OS notification. Right? Looking good. He can keep working on his phone if he's like sitting waiting for DMV or something. Right? And he can't take out his tablet. He can keep working on that same file on his phone, save it back, and it's all going to sync up. It'll sync to the Creative Cloud. And then when he finally gets back to his desk, it's 11 a.m., and he's ready to get his day going, he can just open that folder back up, open not CS6, but CC, and have that exact same file. Now he's going to convert that lower layer for smart filters and put on an iris blur. Right? Because there's still not quite enough blur. Now, iris blur we added in CS6, but you couldn't do it as a smart filter. Right? So once you applied that iris blur, you were screwed. If you wanted to go back, if you saved, closed, and then wanted to go back and undo that iris blur, it was not a smart filter. But in the, when was it? Like March release of the Creative Cloud for Photoshop, in that update, we added the capability of doing this iris blur, right, which is just you, on the canvas, you choose the area that you want to blur and unblur and just kind of drag that around. We added that as a capability for Smart Filter, just like now Camera Raw is a Smart Filter, and there are a bunch of other new Smart Filter capabilities in Photoshop CC. So he's got it, he's done. He's not going to save it back to the Creative Cloud repository if he doesn't want to, because he wants to kind of save it to his desktop. He could save it to Creative Cloud repository if he wanted to, but he's going to just save it on over to his desktop. And then when he's ready to upload it, he can just grab it, drag it directly onto the browser, and it'll upload in Creative Cloud, right? And once that is done, he'll get another growl notification. So what have we seen? Upload and sync. Right, for desktop, mobile, and tablet. He can edit that composition anywhere. And of course, he always has access in Creative Cloud to the newest updates. I forgot to tell you one important thing. For the people who ask the best questions today, you will receive one of 3 special to Adobe government only. There's no other marketing group at Adobe who gives these out. These special Adobe flying monkeys that scream. Leave it on your desk and don't give it to your kids. Learned from personal experience. So I'm just going to tell you right now, when you see these bullets come out and fly out and I recap what we just learned, that's the question asking time. Any questions on what we saw? Oh, I'm sorry. She was first. Right, we don't have that. I haven't gotten to showing that yet.
Okay, but you had said earlier that you have a public cloud and then you have the private cloud, which is government.
Right. Now, what I'm showing right now are capabilities in the public cloud, not in the private cloud yet.
I know that, but where is the private cloud? Are we putting it on our, is it, if I work at a national laboratory, is it on our servers? Is that where that exists?
Yes, okay. Yes. But we haven't quite gotten there yet, so we will get there. And you had a question.
It was similar, where I was curious if you have proprietary information, highly sensitive.
Right.
With the private, that's always been kind of the block to getting things.
Right, of course. So the question for the recording was, what about if Jerome is not working on a picture for a public publication, but if he's working on something that's classified or secure or something like that. I think it's pretty obvious from what we've seen that the Creative Cloud repository is not going to be the right choice for him at this time. As Adobe continues to iterate on its capability for doing things like hosting our Creative Cloud services in a secure facility or like in single tenant storage in a FISMA or FedRAMP compliant facility, then we can start having those conversations with our government customers. But what I'm showing right now is something that is available now on the public cloud, and we have, we are talking to many of our government customers about, well, what are the requirements? So please, if you have requirements, come talk to us. Come talk to myself, our product managers, and tell us specifically what the requirements are that you need from the Creative Cloud to bring it into your agency. But right now, we haven't gotten there yet. We haven't gotten to the private piece. Okay? Any more? Excellent questions. None were monkey-worthy yet. All right, so now the publisher content owner all he has to do is fire up his web browser on his tablet or on his desktop to be able to provide feedback directly to the photog about how that image is, or he can leave some notes. Now what you saw at the keynote, not available yet, so what I'm showing you right now is what's available right now. And what is being able to look at that asset inside of your browser from the Creative Cloud repository. You get all those things like an automatic color palette that can be downloaded and used in Cooler. You get that layer capability, so I can turn those layers on and off inside of the browser. But I, Jerome, need to share this with the publisher to see if I'm going down the right path. So I would just click that share button and allow comments, allow download, and I would target Tim as my client. So now Tim fires up he fires up Outlook. He's like, oh, hey, Jerome just sent me a link to go check it out. He fires up his browser, and he adds a little comment in the comment. Well, that's I like the adjustment, but the blur is kind of eh. You know what? I'll have the publication designer fix that. You'll give him, right? He has access to your Photoshop file through this, so that'll be good, right? So the sharing of assets on this public cloud infrastructure is pretty easy, and right, we're giving you a kind of a tentative capability of comment and review, which is only going to keep getting better in this Creative Cloud service. But the interesting part is the transaction between the public cloud and the private cloud, right? Remember, public, dotted line. Private, straight, solid line, right? Now, the Adobe Experience Manager has tentacles that can reach out to Creative Cloud Service, to analytics, to digital publishing, to all of the other Adobe services and many other non-Adobe services as well, right? You can tether the Adobe Experience Manager to your existing SharePoint repository, right? And there are ways to configure AEM and SharePoint to talk to each other, share assets, and be very collaborative. But what we're going to show is the capability of the Experience Manager to pull in, back behind your firewall, to have a polling importer that looks at a specific folder on the Creative Cloud, on your public cloud. You might have to open a port or a host or something so that it can look over there. You can set it to look and automatically pull in assets from the Creative Cloud, right? So in other words, IT, let's open up this port and just create one little tiny watch folder over there on our public cloud. Just in that one watch folder, if there's anything that's coming in from the public cloud, from the Creative Cloud, we can suck that in and make it ours. And version it and add metadata to it automatically and do whatever else we need to do, right? So we're trying to help ease that process. But that's not, what's on a website? What do you got on a website when you look at a website? You got images and you got text, right? Those are the two things. Copy and images. That's what most people go. Some people go to it for videos. Right? We're going to keep this in the images and text realm right now. So once the publisher content owner has their text or their copy that they upload, and that can be uploaded in many different file formats, or it can be edited natively right in a browser, the authoring or the content management can take place right there, and your constituents can be fed a website upon which Adobe Analytics and Adobe Target can be applied. So we can learn things about them, where they are, what their job is, if they have any metadata associated with their particular user profile, and if we can customize the experience automatically based on who they are and their metadata, right? Pretty nice. So what does this look like, right? Tim, he's also mobile. We are all mobile all the time now. Who sits at a desk anymore all the time for their job? We're all working on the go. So Tim has the Adobe Experience Manager server, but he's like picking up his kid from daycare. And he needs to make sure that everything with this project, Staff Sergeant Davis just saved 6 people in Afghanistan. He needs to be decorated like tomorrow, right? And we have a responsibility as our media publication to get this news story out ASAP. So he's sitting in the pickup line and he takes out his tablet and he logs in as himself. And automatically he's taken to his asset repository on the Adobe Experience Manager where, boom, notice we've got a little icon right there that says that this folder has been set up to pull and import assets from that one particular directory on Jerome's Creative Cloud repository. So boom, all of a sudden Staff Sergeant Davis and some copy has already come into the Adobe Experience Manager's digital asset management repository, right? So it's called Marine Sync because it's syncing between the two. And as he taps through, he can see that that asset, when it came in, has been given a bunch of different renditions. And those renditions are what? They're small PNGs, larger PNGs. And why do we need all of those renditions? Because you need a tablet-size rendition for your web page, you need a phone-size rendition, and you need a magazine-size rendition. And any other renditions he can automatically program in to make. He can take a look at the metadata that was automatically tagged for this image when it came over from the Creative Cloud, and he can edit that metadata if he likes. And now finally, he picked up his kid. All right, we had dinner. Go to bed. No, really, go to bed. Go to sleep. Sit down at his desk. All right, I got a beard, been a long day. Well, we still got to get this thing out. Opens up the laptop. He logs into the Experience Manager. Same interface, except optimized for desktop, right? So the Experience Manager interface itself is a responsibly designed interface. And he's going to go straight on in to the DoD Media site, which is right here. Right over along the right-hand side, you've got assets that you can choose, and you've also got sites that you can choose. So he's going to choose the DoD Media site. Now, this is one page of the authoring interface, right? He wants to author a web page in the Experience Manager in AEM, which I'm going to call it for now. Along the left-hand side, he's got all of his digital assets. Along the right-hand side, he's got a little sidekick that's going to help him drag and drop a bunch of pre-made components like image, video, text, 2-column, 3-column text, whatever it is that he wants. And this is not the banner that he's going to want for his DoD Roadshow article. He's going to want a banner that has Staff Sergeant Davis's face right there because this is our hero in this moment. So in our advertising, in our promotions, we want the most current asset. So forget this old JPEG-based layout. I've got a pre-made Photoshop file over here that I'm just going to drag straight from the digital asset, the DAM, the Digital Asset Management Repository. I'm going to drag that over into this image frame. Notice I'll get a nice little purple rectangle over it and drop it in. And now we have a new reference for that PSD. That's a PSD that he dropped in, and the rendition was automatically put into that div for the website. And we're in authoring mode right now, as you can see, because we can go ahead and type in text or mess around with the images. But if he wants to put it in preview mode in his sidekick and see how this is going to resolve in an iPad, right? That's what it's going to look like in an iPad, right? And we can turn that horizontally or vertical. What's it going to look like in an iPhone 5? Notice that third column of ads and things you might like along the side are gone, right? So there are automatic media queries built into the web content management system that will automatically lay out your content for responsibly designed sites, right? Pretty good. He also has a little bit of context around all of his users. So he can customize, right? Larry Spiller, who is a male adult under 30 and likes the outdoors and is coming from some GPS coordinates and is also a DoD member and uses Safari, he's going to get that banner. Whereas if he changes the client context to a female who is left-handed? I don't even know what that is, right? And who also likes the outdoors but is coming from a different locality and who may not be DoD, she's going to get that same old banner because she's not the right constituent. This is the concept of automatically personalizing your content based on the user profile or other metadata that we have about our users, right? But Tim still has to assign that original PSD that he had over to the publication designer. And the copy that he's received from his copy editors, he has to assign that to the designer to flow it all into the InDesign document to go out to the digital publication. So that's why over here, right, he had sites, assets, and now he has tools. He's going to go into the task management piece, right, the task management component. And he's going to create a brand new project, and he's going to assign that project to Daryl, the graphic designer. And he's going to assign that Photoshop asset that we just created over there in Photoshop, he's going to assign that directly to Daryl, give a little description of what it is, set it as high priority because we need this to go out yesterday, and he's going to set a deadline. Right? There's the deadline, 5 p.m. tomorrow, bro. You better get that thing in. And oh, right, well, you have to finish the graphic and take the blur off. You also have to flow that image into the banner, and you have to take that picture and put it into a digital layout that profiles Staff Sergeant Davis. Got it? 3 things, Daryl. Go, tomorrow. And Daryl's like, great, thanks. Oh, well, and here's the copy too, because we've got task management, but we also have the capability to write manuscripts of copy that can go flow directly into an InDesign document or into the website, right? So a manuscript is basically just straight up text, straight up text that you enter into your web browser that again can be flowed into your website or into your InDesign document, dragged directly over from Bridge, which we're going to see. Right? I know we all love and use Bridge, so I don't have to introduce it. Automated ingest, right? This is what we just saw. Going from the public cloud to the private cloud. We've got that all taken care of. Authoring and personalizing our content using a web content management and digital asset management system. Very important. And assigning those workflows so we can link assets to a particular task and link copy to that particular task for an individual as well. Can anybody see an application for this in their agency or in their workflow? Right? Having a system that's going to centralize asset management and task management and web content management all together in a single unified flow. We haven't even gotten to where this integrates directly with the tools. Is everybody feeling me? Anybody got some questions yet? In the back. Yes, sir.
2 questions.
Oh, okay. Well, do one.
Okay.
Do the best one.
Okay. What's the plan to integrate Edge Reflow into the authoring environment of AEM?
We're getting there.
Okay.
You can. That was an easy one.
The asset portion of the digital asset management system, how is that related to what Scene 7 does?
Excellent question. So Scene 7 is another one of the Adobe digital marketing services, right? Dynamically generating media based on data that's coming in from customers. So Scene 7 can be directly integrated with this and becomes part of that whole personalization story. So if you want to generate a banner that addresses a particular user, says, hey, welcome back, Tim. You know, here's your fresh story from yesterday. I can see that you're in San Jose right now. Scene 7 can link just in the same way that the Creative Cloud links up to the Experience Manager. Scene 7 can do it as well and assist in the personalization. We had another question back there. Yes, sir.
That was a really good illustrative example of a photograph and everything else going through the process and everything. Can you do it with video?
With video. So the Adobe Experience Manager does support the storage of video. But video is kind of one of those things where the file size is going to be really big. And using AEM as a media asset management tool for a video editorial workflow is not the core use case for it. Right? There are many media asset managers that will, for professional editors, that are much more scalable and deploy in the fashion that you need. But this core tool really, web content management, digital asset management for the web and digital media, not really a video ma'am. No, not yet. Think of another one. Think of a better one.
Scene 7 does serve video. And
Yes.
Size and sort of a different quality
Yes, yes, it does. But the serving of video as an endpoint, as a product, as opposed to an editorial, as a component of a video editorial workflow, those are two different things, right? So serving up a
Well, there is a recut quality to Scene 7.
recut,
Yes, there's a video recutting.
right?
You can actually edit on the fly.
Right. So the integration between for the recording, the Scene 7 integration with the Experience Manager doesn't include the capability of lopping off the front and back of a video, the heads and tails of a video inside of the browser. At that point, if you were to integrate AEM and Scene 7, you'd be out in the Scene 7 interface. You'd no longer live inside of AEM.
Technically, Scene 7 is part of AEM.
Right. Yeah. The interfaces do not completely gel yet,
Not yet.
but they will. You're a plant, aren't you? You're a Scene 7 product manager, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. You never know at these conferences who's in the audience. All right, one more question, then we got to keep moving.
Well, if you're sending, you put out photographs that you want your client to look at, and you're on a Mac and they're on a PC, and normally in the past you send them as a JPEG or a PDF for them to look at and approve or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now when it goes to the cloud, even though they're on a PC and they have none of our programs to open it up in, they don't have any of the Creative Suite.
Yep. What I was just showing is all browser based. Yeah. What I was just showing and I'm going to show right. So you're leading me into the next piece, which is the review and approval process via whatever you happen to have lying around. So thank you for the segue. I did see the Scene 7 person really I think you deserve that deep. You have that deep technical knowledge. Good catch. All right. So the next part of our story, and forgive me if I can't get to every single question, but I've got plenty of time afterwards. And there are members of the Adobe Digital Government team scattered throughout the audience to help you as well. So one of the things that you can do from the Adobe Experience Manager is also export your HTML or create a content shell for your HTML. And that shell can be bundled together with PhoneGap Build, so that new data coming in from the Experience Manager can be flowed to that app. PhoneGap Build will take that HTML-based shell and create an application for any mobile device. It'll create a native app for iOS, Android, BlackBerry, Windows Phone, Symbian, what are the other operating systems? PhoneGap Build is a service, part of the Creative Cloud, that will build that native mobile app for you. And I don't have time to show what that looks like. It's quite complicated. And again, it's one of the public services that Adobe offers. But then PhoneGap Build will call out to those native mobile devices and be able to offer those out. So now, Tim over here, the publisher, owner, needs to let Daryl know that he's got tasks. So Daryl can fire up the Adobe Drive. The Adobe Drive is a free utility that sits on your desktop that allows customers, Adobe desktop users, to connect directly to the Experience Manager and access version control, access check-in and check-out, and access all the things that you need for a collaborative publishing workflow. Right? Edge Animate and Edge Reflow. The products of those, the HTML and CSS, can also be used inside of the Experience Manager. And I've seen a proof of concept right now. It doesn't fit with the Marine story, so I didn't include it. But there are proofs of concept out right now where an Edge Animate project is dropped into a website made with the Experience Manager, and it works. Right? Just as if it were a Flash Player experience in a Flash Player plugin. So what does the publication designer make with his turned off PowerPoint tools? What does he make? You can see them down there. He makes InDesign files. He makes, if he's using InDesign collaboratively with copy editors, he might make what's called ICMA and ICML files, in-copy assignments. Anybody use that in-copy over here, up in here? Right? All right, we got 2 in-copy users. So I'm going to show you why, if you're using InDesign, who uses InDesign, first of all. All right, so this is going to be a little bit about why you should be using InCopy. But notice that we've got a connection between the Experience Manager and the Adobe Drive, which is allowing Daryl over here to make all of his assets and include and link those manuscripts and assets into his InDesign file and also into his Edge Reflow project and his Edge Animate project. Right? He's also going to spit out what's called a folio file, and that folio file is going to go up to the Digital Publishing Suite. But first we're going to look at Daryl's life. He's hanging at Adobe MAX because he's a publication designer. And he's walking back and forth, waiting to get into the digital government session. So he's going to log into the Experience Manager. And he's, oh, crap, 4 things to do. Geez, thanks, Tim. You know, it's not like I'm at a conference or anything. So let's see, what do I have to do? I have to do the roadshow banner. I have to do I have to put together the article, and I have to make sure that that blur doesn't suck, right? All right, so I'm going to go into, what's the first thing I'm going to go into? He's just going to tap. Notice that little yellow ring is not a coffee stain. It's a finger tap onto that asset. So he's going to tap onto that blank asset that he needs to fill with the picture of Staff Sergeant Davis. He's going to click on the comment tool because he needs to allow himself to know where the head of Staff Sergeant Davis is going to be placed in the image. So right here on his phone, he can just draw a little circle with his finger and make that annotation in a mobile context. Now he's logged into the Experience Manager. He's making an annotation not on a PDF, which we're all very used to with our annotations over there on the right-hand side of the Acrobat interface, but he's doing this on an asset on his phone for later consumption. And he's going to leave a little note to that effect. God, I keep hitting the wrong button. He's going to leave a little note to that effect. And the note he's going to leave is Staff Sergeant Davis' face should go right there where I made my annotation. All right. Wow, nice to meet you. Wow, really cool. Great presentation. Okay, eating dinner. Okay, going to a party at night. Wow, Max is really cool. Okay, wow, so I'm super tired. I have to get this done tomorrow. I'm going to sit down in my hotel room, pop open the laptop, and right, he logs back in and he can see his annotations that he left while he was on the show floor. Right? Where is my laser pointer? So there's his annotations, and he can also see a version queue up over here. Actually, this isn't a version queue. I'm sorry. This is more comments. Because Larry, what was that? Sorry?
I didn't think version queue still exists.
Right, no, I'm using version queue with lowercase. Okay. Right? Queue, not CUE, and not in caps. Sorry. Don't worry, we're going to get to doing versioning with version. But he actually sees comments that have been left, right? Larry looked at this, he was like, whoa, because it's gray. So now Daryl launches Adobe Drive. Adobe Drive, again, is just going to allow him to connect his desktop directly to that digital asset management system. He's going to log in with his credentials. And boom, that server is going to connect, and he can access that server directly on his desktop. He can access it using SSL, so it's secure. And then he can open up Bridge, and he can have a look over here in his folders panel. Whoops. And he can look directly into that Marines Work folder where he's been given those assignments. And he can open up that roadshow banner directly in Bridge. Now, of course, it bears mentioning that he needs a little bit more metadata around this. He needs to know who made this. Did Tim really do this? Yes, this was saved by Tim at this time and date, and if Tim has any comments for him about this thing. He also needs to know where it is and whether or not that asset is up to date or if it's checked out by someone else on the system. So we can look at some of the metadata. Now, how many of us know about XMP metadata in the room, right? How many of us know that you can customize XMP metadata? It is, after all, called XMP extensible, and you can customize the file info panel in Creative Suite to address that custom metadata. Did we know this? We got one person, a few people who know this. So the Defense Imagery Management Operations Center, or the DIMOC, they have their own. If you work in DoD, you can get this at defenseimagery.mil. And so now he can see that Jerome did a shoddy job of entering his metadata. But luckily, Jerome always does a shoddy job. And so what Daryl has is a metadata template down here for Jerome, applying his metadata for him. So when he applies that metadata template to this asset, notice that Jerome's name, rank, serial number, location, and keywords all get populated into this metadata automatically. Pretty nice. And now, if he needs to edit that metadata template, he can do it straight in Bridge. And if he wants to search the entire asset repository, this is so important. You can search this entire repository right inside of the Creative Tools if you're connected to the repository via Adobe Drive. And he can search on many different types of metadata, right? He can look for stuff that has an EXIF color space of whatever that image is, and that metadata is there in the repository for him. Of course, he's going to look for all the images that belong to Jerome. He's going to find 4 of them, and he's going to make himself a nice little smart collection over here in Bridge on the left-hand side, so that any time that repository is updated with a new image from Jerome, it will automatically show up in his smart collection, in his saved search inside of Bridge. Right? Great functionality right there in Bridge. It's been there forever, but now that Adobe has a real asset management repository, it can really shine. Right? So Daryl launches up Photoshop because he knows he's got stuff to do. Wait, what? He's got a panel? Ugh. Tim is just not going to leave him alone because he's got a panel in Photoshop that shows him all the stuff he has to do. He's got to make this roadshow banner. Leave me alone. And it's got a red exclamation point next to it, which means that it's urgent. Remember, we set these all as high priority. So he can click on each task in this panel. This is not released to the general public right now. This is a pilot panel that Adobe's trying out, and you guys in government get to see it before anyone else. That's not technically true. Other people have seen it. But you guys get to see it here. I don't think anyone else at Max is getting to see this panel. The code name for it is Salsa. It's hot and spicy. And if your agency wants to pilot this panel with the Adobe Experience Manager, you just let us know. Seriously, just give us a call.
Does it require CQ 5.6?
No, I don't think so. Excellent question. Ooh. Nice. There's only one monkey left, so make your questions good. So Daryl's going to click on that roadshow banner, and it's going to show him a thumbnail of that asset that he now has to work with. He's going to click on that asset right there in the panel, and it's going to download and go right into his cache of Photoshop so he can start working on it. Nice? Pretty good, right? Wouldn't you like to have that in your workflow? You just open up Photoshop and your tasks are there waiting for you. And since he's using Adobe Drive, he can see in the metadata this asset is up to date right now, right? Now he can go through and start messing with it, right? He can open up from the Creative Cloud repository that Jerome gave him access to. He can open up that Staff Sergeant Davis picture. He can duplicate the layers from that into the PSD. There it is, and he populates it. And now, as you notice down here, you can't really read it, but it says it's checked out. That asset that he is working on has been checked out of the repository. If somebody else were to go in and try and edit that asset, what do you think would happen? Daryl Sebro is currently using this asset. Please call him at X number in order to tell him to close it. And he doesn't want to close it because he's got a deadline and he wants to go to the Max Bash and see the black keys. So Daryl, once he's done, right, looks at whatever, it's fine. We got to do it this fast. So I'm going to now check this in. He's not going to save it. He's going to check it in. Because why is check in and check out important? Why is having different separate versions of your asset important? Because Photoshop doesn't save the history as part of the file binary. So when you close that, the history's gone. That sucks. You want that history to be preserved in the version queue that CQ is remembering. So he's going to check that in. He's going to leave a little note about what he did. Right? I dropped in Staff Sergeant Davis with a 63% iris blur. There we go. And now he's going to submit that as his task because he doesn't want Tim to think that he's slacking off. It's all right when you do your task, but if you don't submit it as a completed task, then nobody's going to know that it's done. So he clicks submit. He saves it back to the repository. And he also leaves a comment not about the asset, but about the task. Two different things. The asset comment is there for anyone else who checks that asset out to work with it elsewise, right? The task comment is left in order to tell Tim that he did what he was supposed to do. Make sense? All right. So now he's done. All the metadata gets added. The asset gets uploaded. The thumbnail gets generated. And boom, when he looks at his completed tasks, he gets a nice little check mark saying, you can now go to the Max bash. And he looks in his completed queue, and that's there. Sweet. Now, when he goes back to Bridge and he looks at that asset, notice that it's updated with, this is what I mean by version queue. It shows a queue showing the different versions that he's generated with the thumbnails, with his comment added, and the fact that he has actually created it. And if he needs to roll that back, he can do that directly from within the Bridge. He can do it from within Photoshop. He can do it within the web interface of the Adobe Experience Manager also, right? He can right-click on it and open this asset directly in the DAM, and it's going to pop open his browser and show him the new asset. And when he goes back to that website, remember that website that we were authoring with the banner that was blank? When he goes back to that website, it automatically updated as well with the latest version of the asset. So you can put FPO images into the website that you've authored with AEM, and all of those assets will be updated based on your user role and responsibilities. Sweet? We're not quite done yet, so let me take your question at the next break point. And then, of course, Daryl goes to his thing. Well, I got 1 out of 3 done. Screw it. I'm going to the party. Oh, no, I can't. This is a decorated war hero. It deserves our respect, and I want to get paid next week. So he fires up InDesign, and lo and behold, there's a task list panel in InDesign too, because the task list panel goes across the Creative Suite. Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Premiere. For now. Creative Cloud. CC. There's his tasks. Notice that the banner isn't there anymore, but the article design is still there. So he clicks on that. He sees the copy. He sees the instructions. He opens up his mini bridge, and he goes to his repository, and he pulls open his vertical-oriented document. Well, that's great, but it's going out to the digital publication. How the crap am I supposed to make this horizontal as well? Well, I could make a new page, make it horizontal, copy all the pieces, paste them together, or I could use the alternate layout feature inside of InDesign to take all of those liquid layout rules that I painstakingly applied to all the objects on my page and make a horizontal version as well. You guys know about liquid layout in InDesign? You guys played around with it? Good or bad? Room for improvement. Okay. That is honest feedback. I find it for simple layouts like this, it actually, and this is not sleight of hand, like I seriously went through and did screen caps of the exact experience. It did a great job with this layout. It doesn't do a great job with every layout, and you have to apply the right rules. But when you're in a hurry and you understand the liquid layouts in InDesign, you can get a lot of work done pretty quickly. So now he's done, but that is an FPO image. I need to update it with the latest one. So I'm going to relink all the instances of that asset that were sitting where? Not on my... Right. They're not... I'm going to relink them with Drive. You can only have one monkey. So he's going to relink those to his AEM repository, to that photo that Daryl worked so painstakingly on. And boom, it updates. But, you know, that iris blur, we love iris blur, but it kind of looks like crap there. No offense. That's a technical term. It looks like crap. So what's he going to do? This thing is crap. So what's he going to do? He's going to click on that. He's going to edit original. It's going to pop open in Photoshop. And again, this is the up-to-date version. He's going to, because he had the smart filter capability of turning iris blur off, he's just going to turn it off. Now it's checked out. He's going to check it back in and said remove that ugly iris blur. And in InDesign, that'll update. Now it's ready to go out to the digital publishing suite. Wait, no, it's not ready yet. Remember that manuscript that we just wrote text in the web browser? Right? It's just basic text in a web browser that my grandmother would not have a problem typing in. That manuscript, dude, that manuscript is a freaking RTF file that Daryl can grab and drag into InDesign into a frame and get it going on, and style that frame, have a pre-styled frame that he can just drag that copy in, right? So now AEM is a repository not only of images and or videos, but also of copy that can go not only into websites, but also into layouts for print and digital publication, right? We're trying to cover as many bases as we can. Pretty sweet. Now, best practices here for those not using InCopy, which is all of us, is What if the copy changes? The copy never changes. It does. How are we going to allow somebody else, a non-technical person, to work on the copy of our document without screwing up our layout? We're going to take our copy frames in InDesign, and we're going to create what's called in-copy assignments, right? So all I have to do is right-click on that and say in-copy, add to assignment, new assignment, and give it a name, right? This is just called, I'm just calling it body copy, and I'm assigning it to Tim and saying, look, if you want to fix this copy later, go right ahead. It's up to you, bro. And he hits OK. Those IDML files are created, and now he's ready to put it up to the digital publishing suite.
What if all this wouldn't work with video? Is there anything here that you couldn't do with video?
It's still on the video. Yeah. Video for editing is not going to work.
You can't check in, check out?
No, you can't. Not inside of Premiere or any of those things. No. So if you connect to Adobe, to the Experience Manager using Drive, and then you want to check video assets in and out of the repository, no, it's not going to work. Not if you're a pro video editor. Yeah, it's not going to work. It's just not a media asset management tool. Cool? So now we're going to create our folio, which was that last part of the process. So we got to log in. Again, this is part of the public cloud. We sign in. We're going to put this into a portrait profile article. So we're going to have a look in our folio producer. There's our folio, and there's our article within our folio. We're going to go ahead and just update that with the latest version of the folio. It's going to upload, and bam, there we go. So this was the long one, guys. We're almost done, right? This went, oh, right. We are almost done. We captured all of our metadata. We've got version control. We've got task management. And the last part, we've extended our workflow by repurposing the layouts and the content. Question?
Finally, we got our publication in a VPN system. I assigned the job, everybody do the task, but in some way that I could track the timesheet for that maybe later on I could manage better my time, assign better to
Timesheet tracking. So there is a capability inside of, and I don't have it queued up in this particular presentation, but there is an ability to track with versions of a particular website that you've authored. There's an ability to track time signatures, but it's not like the task manager is not going to show Daryl worked on task A for 30 minutes and then gave it to Tim who worked on it for an hour. There is great. Right.
At the end of the story, I need to know how much that costs for the whole process.
Right.
If I have all that data and I could do that kind of assessment, it's not like useful.
Well, that is great feedback for the AEM team. Thank you. Thank you. There's only one left, and we're actually at time. Right? Man, that went fast. Did that go fast for anyone else besides me? I mean, I could go on for another 5 or 10 minutes if you don't have to be anywhere. Yeah? You guys good for 5? Yeah? All right. All right. Yeah. 5 more, and then we'll kill it. All right. You can take all of those assets from Daryl's local place and bring those all up if he has permissions to get those into AEM. He brings out that folio. The folio will call out to the publication owner automatically, right? So it's easy to drag and drop assets. And it's easy to do that upload straight from InDesign with the Digital Publishing Suite, right? It's easy to share directly from within InDesign. And now Tim can fire up his laptop and check out the latest and greatest, right? He's going to upload only what is different about the currently existing folio. He's going to go right to the portrait and profile, and he's going to see, all right, everything looks good. So we're good on the website, and we're good on the digital publication, all horizontal and vertical. So again, we've got that core Adobe file type support when you're uploading your InDesign files, Photoshop files, Illustrator files into AEM, right? Understanding the metadata as well as the core file type, and also the mobile publication. Yes, ma'am?
So you had mentioned that you could customize the user experience, so if say, the main sergeant, who have one profile, and then somebody that's not related to the Marines would have a different one. How do you pull that database in? How does that, I mean, do you have to create a custom database? Can you?
No, there's no database here. This is all based on the open standard called JCR, Java Content Repository.
Okay.
Yep. So it's all based in, this JCR, and that can be connected to other databases if you so desire, right? Like SharePoint. We actually have a white paper on collaborating using SharePoint and the AEM repository.
Okay.
All right. So I'm actually not going to have time to go through the rest of this demo just because you guys had so many great questions. But I'm going to pull up at the end 2 things that you guys need to know right off the bat. AdobeGov.com. If you want to reach out to us, that is a great way to do it. We're there. We're listening. We're here to talk to government customers and figure out what's up. We do webinars, road shows, events on a very common basis. I'm on the road a lot, and many of my digital marketing compatriots are also on the road a lot. And we have a blog that we keep very well updated, and a Twitter feed and a Facebook feed. So I want to encourage you guys to stay connected to us. Stay connected to what's going on across the government publishing community. Because this is it. You guys are the Gov publishing community, the best and brightest. And we love being in touch with you. We love seeing the case studies that you bring to bear. And bring us your case studies. At the next MAX, I want to show off yours. No kidding. I want to show off the next great publishing solution in government. And as promised, if you need a complete, super technical walkthrough of this, you have every single slide that was represented here. Go grab it, share it, show it to people, show it to your boss, and reach out to me. My email address is in there. The Adobe government address is in there. Ask us questions and talk to us. Yes, the most popular slide. And I know you're just going to rip off my PowerPoint transitions, and that's cool. They're not my intellectual property. And thank you for coming to the session.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Have a great MAX. Enjoy. What the crap?